I've never been one of those people fascinated by the dark web. As a 16-year-old girl in high school, I had much better things to do. I'd prefer to hang out with my friends and get my nails done than spend all my time on the internet searching for this dark web. One day at school, though, my friend Kelly was telling me about how her boyfriend was dared to go on the dark web. There was some weird stuff on there. He said it was really creepy with videos of cults and sacrifices, Kelly said. Why would someone even want to see that stuff? It's disgusting, I said. Yeah, I wouldn't, that's for sure, Kelly said. At lunch that day, all my friends were talking about Robbie's dare and how one of us should do the dare. I didn't say anything as I did not want to even think about having to go on the dark web. Rape, killers, weapons. I knew what was on the dark web and I wanted none of it. Hey guys, maybe Charlotte should do the dare, my other friend Christine said. Heck no, guys. I'm not going on that creepy website, I said quickly. They all started chanting now. Do it, do it, do it, do it. People were starting to stare as I turned red. Finally, after more people started to join in, I gave up. Fine, I'll go on that stupid website, I screamed. They all started to cheer with Kelly saying, Okay, but just to make sure you do, you have to FaceTime me while you're going on. And don't worry, I'll have Robbie send you a link, she said with a smile. I was furious with them but didn't say anything. Who cares? I'll just close my eyes when I see anything bad. They didn't say I had to look, I thought. That night, I got a text from Robbie, giving me a link to a website. He also said in the text, good luck. I got goosebumps reading it, but I wasn't going to chicken out as I knew my friends would never let me forget it. I FaceTimed Kelly as I was loading my link onto my computer saying, This is so stupid. Can't believe I let you guys talk me into it. Oh, don't be like that. How about this? You only have to click on one site on the web, and that's it. I'll tell everybody you went on and we'll all have a good laugh, Kelly said on the phone. The link loaded, and I was taken to a black screen with a skull in the middle and a whole bunch of links, all in red. I gulped as I decided to click on the third link. I was taken to some kind of auctioning website. It didn't seem bad at first, but then I read the auctions. The auctions had female names attached to them with a link. I clicked on a random link which had a picture taken from a car of a girl walking home from school. She looked about my age with dark brown hair and green eyes. It had a description underneath that said Tiffany Smith, age 16, high school, Adelante High, parents, Martha and Gordon Smith, hair color, brown, eyes, green, body description, small but packaged with good-sized breasts and small waist, price $20,000. What do you see? Kelly said on the phone. It's some kind of sick auction where they're selling girls, I said in a shaky voice. Are you serious? Call the police right now, she screamed on the phone. I was about to hang up and dial 911. I froze as I saw a name on the top of the list. Charlotte Miller. I freaked out and started to cry. I don't know why I did, but I clicked on the link next to my name. The picture was also taken from a car of me walking home from school. The description said, Charlotte Miller, age 16, high school, Spring Hill High, parents, Cindy and Harry Miller, hair color blonde, eyes brown, body description, excellent body with curvy hips and great sized breast, price $60,000. I screamed and started to cry. Kelly tried to talk to me, but I couldn't hear her. I hung up the phone and ran to my parents' room. They heard me and ran out of their room before I could even come in. I told my dad about the website, which he and my mom checked on. They called the police shortly after. After looking at the website also, they said there was nothing they could do. The link was untraceable, so they couldn't figure out where the website came from. They said they would keep an officer nearby watching my house in case someone came. After that, they left. I slept in my parents' room that night. I didn't get any sleep as the image of me walking home from high school and the description of me were all burnt into my mind. How did they know all this? Were they going to come for me? I thought the whole night. I told Kelly and my friends everything that happened as they all listened in shock. They apologized for making me go on the website and said that we should all hang out after and go shopping to get my mind off what happened. I agreed as we made plans to meet at the mall at 4. I asked Kel if she could walk home with me, but she said she was getting a ride from her mom. Panicking, I called my parents and asked if they could pick me up, but they weren't even home from work as they were stuck in traffic. I somehow got the courage to walk home by myself. As I started walking to my house, "You'll be okay. You're only 15 minutes away from your house and it's the afternoon. No one is going to do anything with people around," I thought to myself as I walked. As I walked, though, I could see out of the corner of my eye a man walking behind me fast. I started to speed up my walking, but he followed and got faster as well. I freaked out and started to run and didn't look back. I ran all the way to my house as I fumbled for the keys to the front door. Just as I was about to put the key in, I felt a prick in my shoulder and the world faded to black. I woke up to find myself in a dark room, lit only by a computer right in front of me. In the computer, I saw that it was on Google Meet with at least 50 people in it. When I tried to move myself, chained to the ground, I screamed and pleaded for help to the computer with no avail. Then, as I looked at the camera, I saw a figure emerge from the shadows. He wore black jeans and a black hood. I couldn't see his face in the dark. He came up right behind me and spoke in a deep voice to the computer. "How much?" I saw in horror as the people in the meet started numbering off prices. 60,000, 80,000, 90,000. The biggest price came shortly after, 115,000. There were no prices named after that. Then the man spoke. "Going once. Going twice. Sold." 2 days later, Kelly stares at the poster in her hand, tears in her eyes as she reads, "Missing, Charlotte Miller." She cries even more as she sees the smiling picture of Charlotte on the poster, looking so happy with her glistening blonde hair and brown eyes. "Charlotte, I'm so sorry."
Hi everyone. So, this happened about a year ago, and it's still pretty freaky. For context, my friend and I are both 22-year-old females. My friend Anna and I were bored one weekend and decided to go to a popular beach to take some pictures and just mess around. So we took pictures and had a really lovely day. Then on the way back, we were starving, so we decided to stop at McDonald's in the beach town. This town is like really, really famous and nice. All the celebrities live there and it's beautiful. There's also a super famous restaurant right off the highway on the beach that's known for celebrities and rich people going. This McDonald's was directly across the street from the restaurant. Since so many famous people go to this restaurant and it's on a pretty busy road, most of them have drivers that take them, usually in big black Escalades. The drivers would usually hang out in the parking lot of that McDonald's while their bosses ate across the street. Anna and I didn't know this at the time. We just wanted a McFlurry. So we go to McDonald's, and right when we get out of the car, she starts acting really weird. She triple checks that the car doors are locked and grabs her fancy camera to bring inside. I ask her what's up, and she says there's a group of guys, the drivers, standing in front of McDonald's, smoking and staring at us, and it was giving her the creeps. I'm a pretty chill and trusting person, so I don't think much of it. It's a busy place in a super nice town. I'm not worried. We go in, and there are a few people in there about our age. We get our food and sit at the table to eat. One of the drivers comes in and sits a few booths down with his back to the wall, right where he can see us. My back is to him, but Anna gets really creeped out and wants to leave. This guy isn't eating or anything. He's just staring at us. Again, this is a pretty crowded McDonald's in one of the nicest towns in Southern California, so I feel pretty safe. Living in South Central, you get used to the odd creep. Still, Anna was freaked out, so I agreed to go. I just have to run to the restroom first. It was one of those McDonald's where the counter and main dining room were in one big room, and then there was a sort of hallway off to the side of the counter with more seating, and then the bathroom at the end, way in the back. There was also a door going outside right next to the bathrooms. The bathroom has only 2 stalls. I just walked into the first stall, not really paying attention to whether or not anyone else is in there. So I'm in there doing my thing, and then I hear the door open and I hear Anna call my name. At this point, I'm very confused since she's supposed to be watching our stuff, and I'm like, "Yeah? What's up?" She asks, "Are you okay?" "Yeah? Just peeing?" I reply. She was like, "Oh, okay," and just stands there in the doorway. After a second, I hear her leave and I'm thinking, that's very weird. So I walk out of the bathroom and see her waiting by the door with all of our stuff in her hands. I ask her what's going on and why she came in the bathroom, and she just looks at me really panicky and is like, "We need to leave right now." At this point, I'm still not afraid, just confused. We rush out to the car and she starts telling me what had happened. Turns out, when I walked into the bathroom, the creepy driver followed me in a little while after. I don't remember hearing him come in, but maybe I did and just assumed someone else had either been in the stall next to me and was leaving, or had just come to check their makeup or something. I'll be honest, I really wasn't paying attention. I know for sure I wasn't aware that anyone had entered the stall next to me because he didn't close the stall door when he came in. She was on her phone, so she didn't see him follow me either. A young guy noticed it and went up to my friend, asking if we knew the driver. Frantic, she told him we did not and ran in to check on me. He was in the stall next to me with the stall door open. It was the large handicap stall, not making a sound. She came in and didn't see him, so she called my name to make sure I was still alive, and he rushed out of the stall past her. She was in shock and didn't know what to do other than gather our things and prepare to run. When we went to her car, he was sitting in his big black car with tinted windows next to us, still staring. We sped off, and when I got the story, we called the McDonald's to let them know what had happened. They didn't really care, and then we called the non-emergency sheriff line to report it as well, which was closed. Thank you, Malibu, for nothing. Eventually, my mom went full-on mama bear and threatened to blast it all over social media that they didn't take my report seriously, and got a hold of someone at corporate from there. They checked their cameras and they saw the guy follow me in. A police report was made, so hopefully this never happens to anyone else again. Thank God nothing happened, but it was really scary. The guy was sitting in his car staring at us when we left. Who knows what he was planning on doing? So, guy in the McDonald's bathroom, let's not meet. So I'm a 23-year-old female. I live in a townhouse with my 2 children, 2 and 6 months old. My fiance did live with us until 2 weeks ago. I'm a stay-at-home mom, and while he did live with us, my ex worked evenings. Sorry for the long post. Let me set the scene. We live in a tiny town in northern Pennsylvania. My line of townhouses sits in front of a big field that runs to a line of woods. As far as I'm aware, these woods stretch for at least a few miles, and I'm not aware of any houses in there or any roads that lead through them. My living room has 3 windows that look to the field, and my bedroom on the 2nd floor only has 1 window that faces that way as well. People do tend to walk their dogs back in the field, and kids sometimes play back there, but I rarely ever see anyone close to my house. For that reason, I tend to leave my blinds and curtains open because I guess I just enjoy the view. So in July of 2019, I was laying in bed trying to fall asleep. All the lights were off, but I had my window and blinds open since it was so warm. I was looking out the window and I noticed small red and white lights just outside. I got up and looked to realize that the lights were coming from a drone. I ran downstairs to where my fiance of the time was sitting in the living room and ran to the window. I told him what I saw, but of course when he went to look, it was gone. I was paranoid that the drone could have had a camera on it and someone was watching me with it. I kept my blinds closed for a while after that. Fast forward to January of this year. I guess I stupidly got comfortable and assumed that whoever it was flying the drone was a one-time creep. My blinds were open and I had just gotten out of the shower. I was sitting on my bed pretty much naked except for my underwear, scrolling on my phone when out of the corner of my eye I saw lights again out of the dark window. It was that damn drone again. I ran out of the room and waited for a few minutes. I peeked back into my room and it was gone. I quickly shut my blinds and got dressed. Honestly, I felt sick at how stupid I was to leave my window open again, especially when I was practically naked. Now for the really disturbing part. My 2-year-old son and I were out in the field 2 weeks ago, 3 days after I kicked out my boyfriend playing ball. I had my 6-month-old strapped to me in a baby carrier. Probably about a half hour after we had been out there, I heard a slight whirring noise coming behind us. I looked up and saw that damn drone flying towards us. I looked around and didn't see anyone. It stopped right over us. I freaked and grabbed my son and dragged him into the house, looking back at the tree line every so often as we went. I knew they had to be hiding in there. I went inside, closed the blinds, and called my mom and told her about the situation. She told me to just keep an eye out. I said I would. My son likes to line his toys up along the windowsill, so I figured it wouldn't hurt to open them up just an inch or so. A little while later, after we ate dinner and it was almost dark, I was feeding my 6-month-old and my son was playing. He was standing over by the window, lining up his toys. He started saying, "Dada, Dada." I assumed he was just missing his father and dismissed him by saying he was going to see him that weekend. He kept saying "Dada, Dada," though. I looked up and saw him pointing to the window, under the little gap the blinds didn't cover. I froze. I remembered that he calls any man with facial hair Dada because it reminds him of his father. But there was no way someone would be bold enough to actually come up to my window. Not when my neighbors are literally right there. Anyone could see them. But there aren't any lights back there, so unless someone actually stepped out of their house, I guess nobody would see them. Maybe it was my ex? But he should be at work at that time. I ran to the window and moved my son. I didn't want to lift the blinds, but honestly, I was sure it had to be the person who had been creeping on me for the past year, and I wanted to see who it was. I pushed the blinds up and was looking at a man who I definitely had never seen before, crouching in front of me. He was bald with a mustache and goatee. I have no idea how old he was. He could have been anywhere from 30 to 50. When he saw me, he smiled and stood up. I yelled and told him to f*** off and that I was calling the cops. He just stood there, smiling at me like some freak. I was about to close the blinds again when he said something I couldn't hear. I told him to leave again and he said, louder this time, "I just want to talk to you." I shook my head no and yelled the same thing to him. He started slapping his hands on the window, yelling, "No, no, no," over and over. I grabbed my phone, scared he was going to try and break in. I dialed 911. My kids were crying from the yelling and I felt on the verge of tears. I told the operator what was going on. The whole time I was on the phone, the man was pounding on my window, screaming now. He was yelling all kinds of nonsense and I only caught some of it. He said he's been watching me for months. I'm beautiful. He wants me to come with him. He'll kill my children if I don't. The operator told me to go into an upstairs room and hide until the police arrive. My town doesn't have a police department, so we rely on the state police. She said it would be about 20 minutes, but to stay on the phone with her. The man was practically punching my window now and was just screaming like a maniac. I was about to grab my kids and run upstairs when I heard someone else screaming. The man bolted. I looked out and saw my neighbor and his girlfriend. I opened the window and my neighbor said that he heard the man, so he ran around the building. He said when the guy heard him, he ran back to the woods and disappeared in the tree line. They said they also called the police. I thanked them 100 times. The police arrived 10 minutes later. They did a quick search around the buildings and in the trees, but obviously didn't find anything. I've been super paranoid since then and stayed at my parents' a few nights after it happened. I don't know why that guy targeted me or why he waited so long to do something. I'm just happy my neighbors were there to intervene, or who knows what would have happened. So, to the creep who has been stalking me and my family for the last year, I genuinely hope we never, ever meet again. A few months ago, my sister talking to a boy online named Ben. The two of them had a lot in common and were only about a year apart in terms of their ages. We didn't think anything of it at first because it's normal to have online friends these days. My sister is really introverted, so it was nice to hear that she had someone she could chat to. From what I understand, Ben was also there for her emotionally too, if that makes sense. My sister became quite attached to him. Ben also introduced her to a few friends of his as well. They all seemed like your typical edgy teenagers, the kind that post selfies with emo song lyrics and stuff like that, similar to what she posts basically. Ben seemed like a normal, caring friend and even messaged me a couple of times when he was concerned about my sister being upset. He seemed genuine, and I was happy my sister had found someone like this. One day, my sister asked my mom if she could meet up with Ben in the city. He lived in another state and had organized to spend a week in our state with his aunt, so it seemed like the perfect opportunity for the two of them to meet up. They arranged a date and time to meet in the city, and my mom and I accompanied her. When that day came, though, he didn't even show up. He made some excuse that his aunt wasn't driving him there, and we figured she was probably concerned about Ben meeting someone he only knows over the internet. I'll admit, I did have a really bad feeling about their meetup while we waited for Ben to show, but I stupidly ignored it. My sister, understandably, was quite upset that he hadn't shown up. Ben messaged me to apologize to us for having to run around after him. He explained his aunt can be unreasonable at times. At that moment, I genuinely believed he was a decent person and wasn't lying about his situation. A couple months passed with just the two of them chatting away like normal. At some point, my mom gets the idea that she and my sister could fly to his state and meet him, and his mom, in case she worried. Ben liked that idea, and so they ordered the flight tickets. One day, out of the blue, my sister burst into my room, clearly frightened. She told me to block Ben and the two friends he'd introduced her to earlier. When I asked why, she explained to me that Ben had been a cover-up identity for a person that had previously threatened her using another account. All the pictures he posted were from someone else's account. She found this out and confronted him. His two friends, that he chatted with on his posts and everything, were all fake accounts run by him to keep up the illusion. The person, after being confronted by my sister, admitted they were keeping tabs on my sister. They had been chatting for months, and she had likely told him some personal things too. The flights were immediately canceled after my mom found out, and we were all spooked about the whole thing. I still am, and I'm even a little paranoid about sharing this here. We couldn't tell the police because my sister was a dingus and didn't keep a copy of the messages the account sent her. The account was taken down after we informed the guy whose pictures were stolen about the incident. So, to whomever this person is, let's never cross paths again.
This happened about 7 or 8 years ago, so some of the details are a bit fuzzy. I would have shared this story ages ago, but it's only been until recently, a month ago, that I discovered there's a community here on YouTube where people can share their own personal scary stories. I really love that, as I think it brings people together from all around the world. Speaking of bringing people together, I want to take you back with me when I used to be on the track and field team. Now, because of the constant training, quite often participating in the sport during normal school hours wasn't enough. This meant I would go for runs on the weekends, usually once in the morning and once in the afternoon, right as the sun was setting. During a time, I had sprained my ankle after falling down some stairs, so I had to take things a little bit easy. This meant that instead of running, I went on short walks around the block. On one of these many light walks, I just got in a brand new iPod for my birthday, and I loaded it up with hundreds of songs. I told my parents I was going to head to the park to feed the ducks, before coming back home for dinner. On foot, it's about 10 minutes. Nothing out of the ordinary happens at the park, other than just watching some kids playing soccer. And then when my little bag of duck feed is empty, I throw it away in the trash, and I begin making the walk back home. Here's when things got scary. As I had my music playing loudly, I was unaware that following just behind me was a person. I would be made known of their presence when suddenly in the corner of my eye, I see a truck come to a stop. Then, a man jumps out, and I watch him as he tackles someone onto a neighbor's lawn. This person was in a hoodie, and had just been feet from where I stood. Instinctively, I was bemused by this sudden altercation. Why in the world would these two decide to play tackle when they were just inches from where I stood? One look at a pocket knife that laid on the grass started to open my eyes to just how serious of a situation I had just avoided. The man that had seemingly come to my rescue snaps me out of the loop by telling me to grab the knife. I do as he says, as the first man in the hoodie is yelling obscenities and he's trying to get away from the truck driver guy. Soon, the homeowner of the home we were standing in front of runs outside and comes to the assistance of my hero. The woman, who I would find out was the wife of the truck driving guy, had already called the authorities, who showed up within minutes. I'll go ahead and summarize things since I feel like this is getting redundant. As I was walking with my earphones, a drunk man was following me. The husband and wife who were driving in the truck just so happened to have seen this. And they were trying to grab my attention, but I was so focused in my own little world, I hadn't realized the danger I was in. This was when the truck driver saw Mr. Creepy Guy take out a knife from his pocket. The rest was history when he came to my rescue. So, to say I was grateful is the understatement of the century. And yes, I know, listening to music with both earphones on in public is the worst idea ever. That's why I don't do it anymore.
For starters, my parents have always taught me how to be independent. I live 30-ish minutes away from New York City by train, so I was taught not to be afraid of the subway systems. I quickly learned how to find my way around New York City and my town in Jersey, I know, don't judge me, via public transportation, and was always checking in with my parents, whether I was going to practice or a movie with my friends. So it was never a big deal. Anyway, a few weeks prior to the incident, the internet in our house wasn't working, and I needed the computer to finish some research paper. Since the library was closed, it was a weekend, typical of my town. My older brother took me to this internet cafe a few blocks away from our house. While there, my brother was talking to his friend Charles and introduced us both. Little did I know, this Charles guy, he was maybe 17 years old, was about to save my life. Oh, I almost forgot an important detail. This cafe was on the main street of my town, and there was a bus stop a block away from the cafe. A few weekends after meeting Charles, my friends invited me to go bowling in the city. I was 14, so obviously I had to ask for permission and was on my way around noon. We bowled, got pizza, talked about my friend's new puppy, typical girl things. Everything was fine until I was making my way back home. 3 p.m. There are delays with the subway system. Instead of waiting it out, I decided I could just take another subway home. It would drop me off at the Newark Penn Station, and I would be one bus ride away from home. No problem. 3:15 p.m. I am on the subway and notice that this older man in his mid to late 20s is staring at me. Creeps me out, but it's nothing new in NYC. I ignore him. 3:50 p.m. I arrive at Newark Penn Station, and this man sees me get up to go. He makes eye contact, smiles. He hurries behind me. Mind you, I'm a young, small girl at the time, so I'm an easy target. He's creepy, so I decided to walk fast and get lost in the crowds. Doors open. I speed walk through people. This dude must have had 20/20 vision because as soon as I arrived at my bus stop, a fast 10-minute walk, he was right behind me. 4 p.m.-ish. I'm sitting next to an elderly-looking lady at the bus stop. Creepy dude is pacing back and forth less than 10 feet away from me. He's looking at me, smiling, pacing the floor. Every part of my young body is saying, "Run now, he is bad news." But there's nowhere to go. And somehow sitting next to this older lady made me feel safer. I take my phone out to text my mom. It's dead. Wonderful. Thankfully, more people have arrived at this bus stop and I feel better. There are witnesses around. He can't do anything, but he is still staring and pacing back and forth. 4:15 p.m. The bus arrives. Finally. I quickly get in and sit as close as possible to the driver. I don't know why I didn't tell the bus driver what was happening. I was young, scared, naive, and didn't want to burden the driver. Stupid. I now know. My stop is the very last one, so I thought, creepy dude has to get off of the bus before me. There is no way he is going to stay until the end. Many bus stops later, this guy is still on the bus. He did this creepy thing. Whenever the bus stopped, he would get up with everyone else, and instead of getting off the bus, he would sit closer and closer to the front. There are fewer and fewer people on the bus, so I realize this guy is getting off wherever I get off the bus. This means if I get off at my stop, he can follow me home, find out where I live, or maybe I'll never get home. 5-ish p.m. There are only 2 bus stops separating me and my house. This guy, a lady, and I are the last ones inside the bus at this point. I decide I'm getting out early because I'm not having this guy know where I live. I get off a bus stop early. He sees me and follows me. I pick up speed. He picks up speed. Fuck it. I run. He's running after me. Mid-panic, I remember the cafe. It closes soon. I'm a block away. I run for my life to the cafe, and this guy is right behind me. As I'm approaching the cafe, I see Charles outside locking up the place. He sees me and knows there's something wrong. I guess he sees the fear in my face and this older dude running after young me. I get to him, and Charles immediately pushes me inside the cafe and locks the door behind us, therefore locking this creep outside. My heart is pounding. I quickly tell Charles that this random guy has been following me across 3 towns and that I was scared. He calls the cops. The guy is staring inside the cafe, and I'm staring back at him, protected by the locked yet clear glass door. I had to remember him. Creepy dude smiles and walks away as if nothing had just happened. Little did I know that Charles's uncle is a cop in our town. A few minutes later, the cops show up. After describing him in vivid details, it takes them minutes to catch this creep still walking down the main street. We later find out this creepy guy had a warrant out for his arrest for armed robbery and had prior accounts of sexual assault. Had it not been for Charles, I don't know what would have happened to me that day. Thanks for saving my life. And no, this did not deter me from public transportation or from exploring the city alone. My parents did freak out and got me maced though. As an adult, I travel all over the world, sometimes alone, but I'm hyper aware of my surroundings because of what happened at 14. So, for starters, I'm a white girl who lives in the middle of nowhere, Japan, so I stand out quite a lot. About 2 weeks ago, I decided to go watch a movie and get some shopping done because it's very cold where I live and only had summer clothes. Since the closest theater and mall is an hour away, I wanted to make the most of my trip and ended up seeing Joker at around 9 p.m. after I did some shopping. Everything up until after the movie was fine and I had no problems. However, when I went to see the movie, I took notice of this one guy who sat directly behind me. I thought, whatever, because he probably just bought the seat behind me because he liked being in the back of the theater. Also, after movies in Japan, it's very common for everyone to stay seated until the end of the credits. But because it was late and I had to drive back home, I didn't want to wait and got up from my seat. As soon as I got up, the dude behind me got up too. We made weird eye contact, and he just seemed a bit off, but I also didn't think too much of it because it was late. After, I walked to the bathroom and the guy was walking slowly behind me and stopped outside of the bathroom and waited, all by himself, and he was watching me go in. Okay, now that was weird, I thought. So, because I was a little freaked out by this guy at this point, I decided to stay in the bathroom for a little bit longer to see if he'd go away. But nope. As soon as I walked out, this dude was outside watching me. But as soon as I started leaving, the credits for the movie just finished, so 2 other women in the theater exited at that time too. There were only 4 of us in the entire theater. So, as a group, We all left and got on the same elevator. Also, this dude was also wearing a very large trench coat, which added to his creep factor. So, he was also just looking at me while we were in this elevator, and as we were leaving through the entrance doors, I start to walk fast, and then I ran straight to my car, which was far away. And I just look at the dude, and he's just standing there at the entrance, watching me run to my car. As I was about to leave, I saw him wait in his car, and it was turned off. He was just waiting for me, I guess. I decided to wait there too in my car, and he didn't move or turn on his car for about 5 minutes. I was freaked out at this point and drove out of the lot as fast as I could, but as soon as I turned on my car, he turned on his car. But I was too fast for him to catch up, and I drove back home without him following. So, creepy trenchcoat guy who followed me around in the theater and parking lot, let's not meet.
Currently experiencing something similar at my current gym, which reminded me of Brett. I am a male. When I was around 19, I got really into weightlifting at my university's rec center. It was a massive complex with multiple weight rooms, 2 indoor tracks, an Olympic swimming pool, the works. I'd lift 4 to 5 times a week and often cool off with laps in the pool. One day in the weight room, I was approached by a guy named Brett. He didn't look like a student. He was older, probably late 30s, early 40s, but very friendly. The rec center wasn't just for students. Anyone could purchase a membership. Casual conversation is pretty common in gyms, and I was so naive in those days, I didn't think anything of it when he asked personal questions, like where I was from and where I worked, which was at a grocery store in my hometown, the next town over. I didn't see this guy in the gym every day, but it was common to run into him a couple times a week. We'd shoot the shit for a bit, and I began to sense that he was interested in more than just saying hi. One day, he mentioned that he'd been by the grocery store where I worked, but didn't see me there, and wanted to know what my schedule was. Despite my naivete, I immediately recognized that this wasn't normal, and that I didn't want to talk to this guy anymore. I lied and told him my schedule was different every week, and got back to my workout. One day, not long after, I was walking into work to start my shift. We started at 9 a.m., and he was there in the foyer just hanging around. He called out and tried to talk to me, but I told him, "Hey man, I'm at work right now." After that, I didn't really talk to him in the gym anymore. Looking for me at my job was too weird, and it pissed me off. He'd approach me and I'd just coldly say hey and look away. The final straw was one evening when I just finished swimming laps. The shower room was an open room with 4 shower stands, each with 4 nozzles pointing north, east, south, and west, so 4 people could use the same stand at once. No curtains, no partitions, which may seem odd these days, but I never thought anything of it since I grew up swimming at this pool. I was in there alone showering, my swim trunks hanging on the drying rack, when I glanced toward the doorway to the locker area and saw this motherfucker peeking around the doorway watching me shower. He immediately ducked back and was gone by the time I finished up and went to get dressed. I went straight to the service counter to report what had happened. I only knew his first name, but they seemed to know who I was talking about. Never saw him again after that.